One aspect students last year struggled a little bit with was to identify in their problems, in their coursework, what is the social psychological perspective? What are the social psychological aspects of this problem that our theories, that our evidence and our findings can help us to explain? So we could look at the same situation. Here we will use the marshmallow experiment, the famous marshmallow experiment. Some of you might know it, some of you might not know it. I will explain it in a minute. But here we use the famous marshmallow experiment to look at a situation that, for instance, personality psychology or even cognitive psychology or neuroscience would find very different explanations, focus on very different aspects than a social psychologist. And this should kind of help you to get a little bit in a feeling into the groove of seeing like, oh, as social psychologists, these are the things we look at. So let me introduce to you the marshmallow experiment, and then thereafter we can start to think about what could be socially psychologically about this experiment. How could we explain it using social psychology? Okay, so what happened in the marshmallow experiment? It's called the marshmallow experiment because there were marshmallows involved. Sometimes there were cookies involved or other things that young children, here in this case, I think they were between 4 and 5 years old, were eager to get. So the children in the original experiment, these were children, I think they were at Stanford University on the West Coast in the US, and they would come into the lab and they would sit down at a table, just like I'm sitting down at a table right now. And in front of them, the experimenter would put a plate, and on this plate, they would put one marshmallow. And then they would say to the children, here is one marshmallow. And if you wait for a very long time, then I will come back and give you a second marshmallow. But in order to get the second marshmallow, you're not too allowed to eat the first marshmallow. So you have to look at this marshmallow for a very long time. And then if you can do this, sit in front of this marshmallow without eating this marshmallow, then you get a second one. So the idea here is that basically children had to delay their gratification. They had to wait, overcome a temptation that is here now, right? Eating the one marshmallow to get something even better later on. So the delayed gratification then pays off and they get 2 marshmallows. So in actuality, the very long time that was told to children, because children don't really have a good understanding of time, was 15 minutes, which is a really long time. 15 minutes sitting in front of something that you want is hard for anyone. Try that with your cell phone and you'll see it's not very easy. And so what made this experiment so interesting was that this was the first way to kind of having some like an observable way, a behavioral measure for self-control, for willpower, for how well children could delay their gratification. So in the slides here below, there's also a link to a YouTube video which you can watch, where the children really, they recorded the children while they're waiting and they're really struggling. Some of them are kind of sniffing it and then getting really worked up because they really want to eat that marshmallow. Some turn around, some start singing. They do all kinds of ways to deal with that situation. And some of them are really, really good. They go and they wait the 50 minutes to get a second marshmallow, so they are able to do it. And some of these young children are not, right? Some wait maybe 3 or 4 minutes, some wait not at all. They immediately eat this marshmallow. They can't even resist it for 5 or 6 seconds. And then some are in the middle. So you have the whole kind of variance within, some really good, some in the middle, and some are not, right? So I think there was like one reason why this experiment became really interesting and famous, like, oh, there's a way for us to measure self-control in a self-report way and observational way. So people were really excited about it. But what really fired up this research was that Walter Mischel, they followed up with these children. About 20 years later, they looked at, okay, how are these children doing? And they published their findings in this article here in Science, Delay of Gratification in Children, where they followed these children up. And here you can see, here's a quote. And it's like, those 4-year-old children who delayed gratification longer in certain laboratory situations developed into more cognitively and socially competent adolescents, achieving higher scholastic performance and coping better with frustrations and stress. So what you can see that basically what they find is in the science paper that every second the children waited longer, 15, 20 years impacted how well they did in school, how well they did socially, and how likely they were to commit a crime. Okay, so you can see the power of this paradigm. There's something that's really interesting, that captures it, that matters in the real world. There are many, this kind of sparked interest in social psychology and beyond, in self-regulation, in self-control research. Here's an article by by Angela Duckworth and Martin Seligman. And what they show is that basically self-discipline, self-control is much more important for academic performance than it is their IQ. So what they find is like, and I could have put here like 10, 20, 30, 40 slides just showing you how important self-control is, right? For all kinds of success, for health, mental, physical health, for having fulfilled relationships. So it's a really important phenomenon that Walter Mischel was able to catch there in the laboratory. And now obviously we want to explain, why is it? Why is it that some children can wait so long, and why is it that other children can't wait? Okay. And what we want to contrast here in this exercise is basically, there's the one way where people in personality psychology say like, oh well, it's genes, is somehow the genes are differently expressed, so that leads to kind of like a different neurobiological functioning that then leads them to either be better or worse at resisting temptations. But social psychologists might think there's something true to that, but they have their own set of explanations. And I want you to kind of think about it. What type of explanations could you come up with as a social psychologist that, well, would help us to understand while the children in this situation, while some of them were able to wait and while some of them were not able to help. And I'm excited to hear more about your solutions to that, your ideas, and looking forward to reading that.